Kyler Murray had a great first half of the season. The Cardinals really struggled down the stretch this year. And obviously in the playoffs, it was not a good look against the Rams. And Kyler Murray has now done something interesting to a lot of people, and that's unfollowed the Arizona Cardinals and removed all photos or images or content of him in Arizona Cardinals gear or associated with the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray's removed all Cardinals-related content from his Instagram and unfollowed them. And The Athletic is reporting the same thing. And so now you can see the last thing he had was him in the Pro Bowl and then him as a Sooner. And this is like, really, that's it. And I think last thing he really did was interact with a tweet from Mike Evans, who said, great to catch a touchdown pass from the legend himself, Kyler Murray. But what do you make of this, Barnes? We haven't really heard anything about this other than this coming out. We see this from time to time. They play these games on social media to send a message. Is Kyler Murray unhappy in Arizona? What do you think's going on?
He clearly wants a trade. I don't think that's the smartest decision. I get they struggled down the stretch. That had a lot to do with DeAndre Hopkins being hurt. But maybe he already knows they plan on trading him. I mean, like, an interesting trade would be Kyler Murray to the Houston Texans for Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson would probably excel more than Kyler Murray did, assuming he can solve all of his off-field problems. But look at Myles Garrett, with the racial focus right now in the NFL helps guys like Deshaun Watson, because Myles Garrett tried to take a quarterback's head off and got away with it by faking a racist allegation. And everybody in the league, I was fascinated how they just pretended that never happened all year while praising Myles Garrett. He clearly made it up. There's no doubt he made it up. But the league were like, "Oh God, we can't talk about that."
All of the black offensive linemen for the Steelers somehow had no issues with the white man screaming the N-word. But only Myles Garrett heard it.
Yeah, and a quarterback in the NFL is going to say that live in a game? I don't think so. That was just that was clearly fantasy land. But credit to whoever gave him the idea. Hey, say he said the N-word. Oh yeah. That's why I was trying to rip his head off. Not because I have a temper problem. But I think this is a mistake on Kyler Murray's part. Arizona has done everything possible to help him excel. In terms of personnel, in terms of coaching, all of it. And so, in my view, he's overperformed and overachieved what I expected out of him, because he's still very short. Whatever. He's not at the traditional height of an NFL quarterback. He's a good runner, but he's not Lamar Jackson. And, they went out and got they stole DeAndre Hopkins from the Texans, the best receiver in the NFL, arguably, when he's healthy.
When he went out, when he got injured, it was a big difference, because it showed that none of those other receivers can really create any separation for themselves. They can't really get open themselves. They need to be part of that scheme.
And it exposed Kyler Murray. That Kyler Murray's great success had a lot more to do with DeAndre Hopkins than Kyler Murray. And maybe he's bitter about that. Maybe he thinks, it's because of the coaching scheme and the GM, they just don't, they're not aligned enough to make sure that he excels. But I don't see it as a wise move, unless it's something that's already happened, unless he already knows he's going to be traded. But still, I wouldn't do that. This is kind of a, classless kind of move in my view. And more and more players are doing it as leverage, but I don't think it works long term. And it really doesn't make sense. I would get if you'd been playing and you'd been getting the crap kicked out of you because there were no receivers and no tight ends and no running backs and a coach that was like the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator, then I would get it. It's been just the opposite in Arizona. So, they were a playoff team this year. They were banged up, so they weren't going to beat the Rams, and they matched up poorly but he played poorly against the Rams. He made several terrible, terrible decisions that are all on him.
He showed, listen, Joe Burrow took a lot of sacks in that game against Tennessee, but a lot of times a sack is better than an interception, as Kyler Murray showed.
Throwing underhanded from your own end zone, just up in the air and seeing what happens.
Exactly. So I think if this is Kyler himself doing this, I think it's a mistake. There are very few places that he could go where he could have better weapons surrounding him. I don't know if I can name one. Not in reality. Maybe he could go to the Rams and get Sean McVay and some of those weapons with that mind and everything. But realistically, no. He's got some very talented wide receivers. He's got a young guy like Rondale Moore, Purdue guy, who can absolutely fly. You got some talented running backs. I don't know how long Zach Ertz is under contract, but they just traded for him. So you've got pieces there. And I have always had my doubts about Kyler Murray. I actually said this year he's kind of changed my mind about him. Because coming out of college, especially that interview he had with Dan Patrick, where he just seemed to not give a fuck about playing in the NFL, that concerned me. And something like this just makes everyone think about all that all over again. So I think it's a bad look for Kyler. We'll see what happens going forward. Sometimes we see this stuff resolved. Who knows? It could be about anything. But obviously, Kyler Murray unhappy about something in Arizona.